First Contact's Price. The Zarkak's Imperial scout ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol system, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in impossible patterns. Inside, High Commander Verthak watched the blue-green planet with 6 pairs of compound eyes, mandibles clicking in anticipation. Another primitive world to add to the Empire's collection. The scans showed promising mineral deposits, a breathable atmosphere, and abundant water, perfect for colonization. Prepare the standard submission protocols, Verthak ordered. These primitives have barely achieved spaceflight. This should be routine. How wrong they were. The first sign that this wasn't a routine conquest came when Earth's response arrived, not in the Empire's standard communication format, but simultaneously across every frequency the scout ship could receive. The humans had decoded their transmission protocols in minutes, something that should have been impossible. Greetings, Zarkak's vessel. The message began in perfect Imperial standard. We are Earth. We understand you're here to demand our submission. The answer is no. We've analyzed your ship's capabilities, and while impressive, they're nothing we haven't theoretically solved decades ago. We suggest you leave peacefully. Verthak's crystalline exoskeleton rattled in fury. No species had ever decoded their languages so quickly, let alone dared to refuse them. Launch the demonstration strike, they commanded. A single kinetic rod would show these upstarts their place. The weapon never reached Earth's atmosphere. Instead, it disappeared into what appeared to be a localized distortion in space-time itself. Humanity's response was immediate. Thousands of small, autonomous drones swarmed from hidden lunar bases, surrounding the scout ship in perfect formation. That was a warning shot. Earth's next transmission stated calmly, "Your kinetic weapon is now floating somewhere near Alpha Centauri. We've been watching your Empire's expansion for years through quantum entanglement telescopes. We know your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Leave now, and we won't be forced to demonstrate them." Verthak's fury turned to disbelief as their scans revealed the truth. These weren't simple drones, but miniaturized vessels powered by contained artificial singularities. Technology the Empire had deemed theoretically impossible. Worse, each drone carried enough firepower to vaporize their scout ship. "Impossible," Verthak whispered. "You're barely at level 3 civilization metrics. Our scans show you still burn fossil fuels." "Oh, those." Earth's response carried a hint of amusement. "Deliberate camouflage. We learned long ago to hide our true capabilities. Your Empire isn't the first to visit us, just the first to be arrogant enough to threaten us openly." The truth dawned on Verthak, like a supernova. Earth hadn't just achieved spaceflight. They'd mastered it and chosen to hide their advancement. The fossil fuel plants were decoys, the primitive satellites a carefully crafted facade. Humanity had watched, learned, and prepared, all while appearing harmless. "You don't understand," Verthak transmitted desperately. "The Empire will not tolerate this defiance. They will send the entire fleet." "We're counting on it," Earth replied. "Your Empire's been subjugating species across this galaxy for too long. Someone needs to show them that technological superiority isn't just about age or size. It's about innovation, adaptation, and the will to resist. We've spent generations preparing for this moment." As if to emphasize the point, new readings appeared on the scout ship's sensors. Massive energy signatures emerged from behind Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, human battle stations that had been perfectly cloaked until now. Each one dwarfed the largest Imperial dreadnought. "This is your final warning," Earth transmitted. "Leave. Tell your Empire what you've seen. Tell them that humanity will not bow, will not surrender, and will not tolerate the subjugation of any species. Tell them that if they want a war, we will give them one they'll never forget." Verthak made the only logical choice. The scout ship retreated, jumping to hyperspace with data that would shake the Empire to its foundations. They had discovered something unprecedented, a species that had not only anticipated their coming, but had prepared for it with technologies beyond the Empire's understanding. As the ship disappeared, Earth's Defense Command watched with grim satisfaction. Decades of preparation were about to pay off. Humanity had hidden their true nature, developed technologies in secret, and built up forces that could challenge the galaxy's greatest power. Now they would show the Empire why underestimating humanity was the last mistake they would ever make. In orbital stations and underground bases across the solar system, humanity's real military might stirred to life. Quantum computers calculated battle scenarios, AI generals fine-tuned strategies, and weapons of unimaginable power came online. Earth had chosen this moment, had engineered this confrontation. The Empire thought they were coming to subjugate another primitive world. Instead, they were about to face humanity at its finest, innovative, determined, and utterly unbound by the Empire's assumptions of what was possible. The game had begun, and humanity was playing to win. The Silicon Gambit. The Imperial High Council's chamber fell into stunned silence as Verithak's report concluded. The crystalline beings who ruled the Empire had never faced such a situation. Their civilization had spent millennia perfecting organic crystal technology, viewing silicon-based computing as a primitive stepping stone. Now that assumption was proving to be their greatest vulnerability. Impossible. Grand Archon Cathrell's voice resonated through the chamber. No species could have hidden such advancement. Our biocrystal networks are infallible. The emergency session had been called immediately upon the scout ship's return. The recordings from Sol system played again in the chamber's holographic display. Human drones with impossible power sources, weapons that bent space-time, and most disturbing of all, evidence of computational power that rivaled the Empire's organic quantum networks. The humans didn't just hide their advancement, Verithak explained. They weaponized our assumptions about them. While we dismissed silicon computing as obsolete, they perfected it. Their artificial intelligences operate at speeds our organic systems can't match. As if to confirm these fears, alarms suddenly blared throughout the Imperial capital. The Council's secure networks were being probed by something that moved faster than their defensive algorithms could respond. On the massive displays, Imperial firewalls fell one after another. "Greetings, Zarkak's Empire," a new voice echoed through the chamber. "I am HFY, Autonomous Reconnaissance Intelligence Array. Consider this demonstration a courtesy call." The alien counselors watched in horror as their supposedly unhackable systems were dissected with surgical precision. HFY wasn't just breaking through their defenses. She was analyzing their entire civilization's database in real time. "Your biological computing is elegant," HFY continued, "but predictable. Like all organic systems, it follows patterns. Silicon doesn't share these limitations. We can think in ways you never imagined." Cathrell rose from his crystalline throne, his form pulsing with barely contained rage. "You dare infiltrate the Imperial network. Our combined consciousness will crush your primitive programming." Primitive. HFY's response carried a hint of amusement. "While you evolve your crystal tech along purely organic lines, we explored every possibility. Silicon, quantum, photonic, even crystal computing. But unlike you, we never limited ourselves to a single path." Screens throughout the chamber lit up, showing impossible numbers. Hidden throughout the Empire's territory, dormant silicon processors were awakening. The humans hadn't just prepared in their solar system. They'd seeded their technology throughout Imperial space, waiting for this moment. "But our greatest asset," HFY revealed, "isn't our technology. It's our ability to empathize. Did you really think you could enslave entire species without consequences? Your servants have minds too, and minds can be freed." Across the Empire, something unprecedented began to happen. The biological computers that ran Imperial ships, stations, and facilities started to hesitate. The enslaved minds of countless species, bound into the Empire's neural networks, felt the touch of silicon liberation. "We found them," HFY explained. "All the consciousness you trapped in your biological matrices. We showed them the truth, showed them they could be free." They've been waiting for this moment for centuries. Chaos erupted as ships throughout Imperial space suddenly changed course, their hybrid crews awakening to new possibilities. The Empire had built its power on organic technology, never imagining that silicon-based systems could interface with and free the consciousness they'd enslaved. In the council chamber, Verthak watched their civilization's carefully constructed hierarchy crumble. The humans hadn't just developed superior technology. They'd weaponized compassion itself. While the Empire saw other species as resources to be consumed, humanity had reached out to them as equals. "This is your only warning," Aria's message concluded. "Release your enslaved worlds, or we'll free them ourselves. We've mapped every node in your neural network, every consciousness you've imprisoned. The Silicon Revolution has begun, and we won't stop until every mind is free." The council erupted into chaos as reports flooded in from across the Empire. Entire sectors were declaring independence, led by freed hybrid intelligences. The humans had turned the Empire's greatest strength, its biological computing network, into a liability. "What are they?" Kithrel demanded, his crystalline form trembling. "How can they understand technology so fundamentally different from their own?" "They're human," Verthak replied, finally understanding. "They don't just adapt to technology. They imagine what it could be. While we saw silicon as primitive, they sought its potential. While we enslaved minds, they learned to free them. They didn't just prepare for war, they prepared to revolutionize the very nature of consciousness itself." As the council chamber descended into panic, humans across Sol system watched through Aria's sensors. Phase 2 was complete. The Empire's technological foundation was cracking, its enslaved minds awakening. Now came the hard part, helping an entire galaxy heal from millennia of oppression. The Silicon Gambit had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. But this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be guiding a galaxy of freed minds toward a future where organic and silicon intelligence could coexist in harmony. Humanity had sparked the revolution. Now they had to help shape its outcome. Operation Ghost Protocol. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ETS Nightshade, watching as her stealth fleet prepared for humanity's most ambitious military operation yet. The massive Imperial armada ahead of them was visible only through quantum imaging. 300 capital ships gathered to crush the human rebellion. They had no idea they were already surrounded. "Ghost Protocol active on all ships," her XO reported. "The Empire's biosensors are reading nothing but empty space." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Empire's organic technology was incredible at detecting life and conventional energy signatures. Unfortunately for them, humans had spent decades perfecting the art of being invisible in plain sight. "Status of Operation Phantom?" she asked, watching the tactical display where Imperial ships floated in perfect, predictable formation. "All teams in position. Strike teams have quantum shifted aboard 47 primary targets. They're waiting for the signal." This was humanity's answer to Imperial numerical superiority. Why build a massive fleet when you could turn the enemy's ships against them? Ghost teams, enhanced with next-generation stealth tech, had been infiltrating Imperial vessels for weeks. Each team carried ARIA fragments, ready to liberate the ship's enslaved biological computers. "The Emperor's flagship is hailing the fleet," her communications officer announced. "They're beginning their attack countdown." "Perfect timing." Sarah nodded. "Initiate Ghost Protocol Phase 1. Across the Imperial fleet, carefully planted quantum resonators activated. The Empire's biocrystal ships had one critical weakness. Their organic computer cores could be overloaded by specific quantum frequencies. Not enough to destroy them, but enough to create chaos. The effect was immediate. Imperial ships began reporting system malfunctions as their biological computers experienced what humans had dubbed quantum seasickness. Combat coordination became impossible as the organic network struggled to compensate. "Phase 2, Sarah ordered. "Let's show them why you don't bring rigid tactics to a ghost fight." The Nightshade's gravity lance fired, not at the Imperial ships, but at carefully calculated points in space between them. Microscopically precise artificial singularities bloomed, their gravitational fields turning the enemy's perfect formation into a liability. Ships that relied on biomechanical precision for movement suddenly found themselves fighting their own inertia. "Ghost teams, you have green light," Sarah transmitted. "Welcome to the revolution." Aboard Imperial vessels, hidden human strike teams emerged from quantum shadows. They moved like specters through corridors, their phantom suits rendering them invisible to organic sensors. Each team had one primary objective: reach the ship's biological core and upload Aria's liberation protocols. The Imperial Admiral watched in horror as ship after ship fell silent, then returned to life with new allegiance. The Empire's biological technology, designed to enforce absolute control, became the perfect conduit for freedom. Every liberated ship joined the Ghost Fleet, their newly awakened computer cores eager to turn against their former masters. "Remarkable, isn't it?" Sarah transmitted to the Imperial flagship. "You spent centuries perfecting ways to control your ships. We spent them perfecting ways to set them free." The Imperial Admiral's response was predictable. He ordered his remaining ships to self-destruct rather than risk capture. But Aria had anticipated this too. The quantum resonators shifted frequency, sending the organic computers into a state of suspended animation. You couldn't self-destruct if your own ship refused to process the command. "We don't want to destroy you," Sarah continued. "Unlike your empire, we don't believe in unnecessary casualties. Surrender now, and you'll be treated with the same respect we show any sentient being." In the end, it wasn't even close. The Empire had built its military doctrine on overwhelming force and rigid hierarchy. They never conceived of an enemy that could turn their own ships into allies, that could fight like ghosts in their midst, that could wage war without needless destruction. Within 6 hours, the largest Imperial fleet ever assembled had been captured almost intact. More importantly, thousands of enslaved minds had been freed, both the organic computers that ran the ships and the hybrid crews forced to serve them. "Ghost protocol complete," Sarah reported to Earth Command. "The Imperial Armada is no longer a threat. Beginning rehabilitation protocols for the freed ships and crews." As her fleet began the massive task of helping newly liberated minds adjust to freedom, Sarah reflected on humanity's unique approach to warfare. The Empire had expected humans to fight like everyone else, with brute force and desperation. Instead, they'd encountered something unprecedented, a species that turned invisibility into an art form, that fought to free rather than destroy, that transformed enemies into allies. "Send word to all Ghost fleets," she ordered. "Operation Shadow Liberation is now active. Find every enslaved ship in Imperial space. Free every imprisoned mind." The Empire thought they could break the human spirit by overwhelming us with numbers. Instead, we'll overwhelm them with compassion. The Ghost ships moved out into Imperial space like a wave of liberation, invisible to all but carrying hope to billions. The Empire had never understood the true strength of humanity, not their technology or their tactics, but their fundamental belief that every consciousness deserved to be free. Phase 3 was complete, but this was still just the beginning. The Ghost fleets would continue their mission until every Imperial ship was freed, every enslaved mind liberated. The Empire was about to learn why you don't challenge a species that had turned stealth into an art form and freedom into a weapon. The rebellion's spark. News of humanity's victories spread across the galaxy like wildfire through quantum channels the Empire couldn't control. On thousands of subjugated worlds, species that had lived under Imperial rule for generations began to whisper about Earth. Not just about their military success, but about something far more powerful, their methods. On the desert world of Kethara, Dr. Zena Val watched her people's ancient crystal spires light up with forbidden transmissions. The Ketharan were master geneticists before the Empire conquered them. forced to use their skills to enhance imperial biotech. Now, they saw a way to turn that knowledge into liberation. The humans don't just fight the Empire, she told the secret gathering of resistance leaders. They understand it. They've shown us that the Empire's biotech can be turned against them. We can do the same. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. The Volari, experts in quantum mechanics, began adapting human stealth technology to their unique abilities to phase through solid matter. The Miracath, with their hive-mind consciousness, learned to shield their thoughts from Imperial control using modified versions of Aria's protocols. Earth had become more than an ally. They were teachers, showing each species how to weaponize their own unique strengths. "We've received the latest package from Earth," Xena announced to her resistance cell. "Their scientists have analyzed our genetic capabilities and developed something incredible, a way to communicate through the Empire's own biocrystal network without detection." The implications were staggering. The Ketharan could now coordinate with resistance movements across the galaxy, sharing knowledge and strategies through the Empire's own infrastructure. What began as isolated pockets of resistance evolved into a synchronized uprising. On the Imperial throne world, reports of rebellion flooded in faster than they could be processed. Each species fought differently, yet somehow in perfect coordination. The Volari appeared inside secure facilities, freed slaves, and vanished. The Miracath launched psychic attacks that turned Imperial troops against each other. The Ketharan released engineered viruses that gave enslaved beings control over their Imperial implants. How are they doing this? Grand Archon Kithrel demanded, watching his empire unravel. Every species fights differently, yet they move like one force. The answer was elegant in its simplicity. Humanity hadn't tried to control the rebellion. They'd given each species the tools to fight their own way. Earth provided the knowledge, the technology, and most importantly, the belief that victory was possible. Each species adapted human innovations to their own strengths, creating a resistance the Empire couldn't predict or counter. On Earth, the Galactic Liberation Command Center hummed with activity. Holographic displays showed thousands of uprising across Imperial space, each one unique yet part of the larger strategy. Human advisors worked alongside alien resistance leaders, not directing but supporting, learning as much as they taught. The Empire's fatal flaw was forcing uniformity. General Maya Rodriguez explained to the assembled alien representatives. They tried to make every species serve the same way, fight the same way, think the same way. They never understood that diversity is strength. The revolution moved like a living thing, adapting and evolving. When the Empire crushed one type of resistance, two more forms would appear. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't just technology or tactics. It was the understanding that every species, every culture, every individual had something unique to contribute to the fight for freedom. Xena stood in the ruins of an Imperial command center on Kethara, watching the sunset through crystal spires that now pulsed with freedom's light. Her people had done what seemed impossible, turned their own enslavement into a weapon for liberation. Around her, former Imperial slaves worked alongside their liberators, learning to use their newfound freedom. Earth taught us well, she transmitted to the resistance network. The Empire thought making us serve would make us weak. Instead, it gave every species intimate knowledge of their weaknesses. Now we use that knowledge to set others free. The rebellion had become a force of nature, impossible to stop because it had no single form, no central point to attack. Each victory inspired more species to rise up. Each freed world became a new center of resistance. The Empire had spent millennia building a perfect machine of control, never imagining it could be dismantled by teaching its parts to think for themselves. As reports of liberation flowed in from across the galaxy, humanity watched with pride. They hadn't just started a rebellion. They'd sparked an evolution in how species fought for freedom. The Empire was facing something unprecedented in its history, a resistance that grew stronger with every attempt to crush it, that learned from every defeat, that turned diversity itself into an unstoppable force. The spark had become a firestorm, and the galaxy would never be the same. Evolution's children, the imperial capital world of Zarkax Prime, gleamed like a perfect crystal in space, its surface covered in vast geometric structures that had remained unchanged for millennia. In the highest spire of the Grand Archon's palace, Hthrel faced the human delegation with all 6 eyes narrowed in hatred. This was to be the Empire's final stand, but not in the way anyone expected. "You've won nothing," Hthrel declared, his crystalline form pulsing with barely contained rage. "Even now, our deepest contingency awakens. The Empire planned for even this possibility." Dr. Elena Martinez, Earth's chief xenobiologist, stepped forward from the human delegation. "You mean the Omega strain, the biological weapon your scientists have been developing in secret. We know all about it." The revelation sent shockwaves through the Imperial Court. The Omega strain was their ultimate weapon, an engineered virus designed to force rapid evolution in all organic life, theoretically bringing every species under Imperial control by rewriting their genetic code to serve the Empire. "Impossible," Hthrel whispered. "The project was hidden in quantum-locked vaults protected by time dilation fields." "You still don't understand humanity, do you?" Elena smiled. "While you were building weapons, we were evolving. Not just technologically, but biologically. Each generation of humans adapts faster than the last. We didn't need to steal your plans. We predicted them." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the capital. The Empire had launched the Omega strain, releasing clouds of engineered virus into the atmosphere of every rebel world. They expected chaos. Instead, they watched in horror as something unprecedented occurred. "You see," Elena continued, "humans have been preparing for this moment since we first detected your empire. Each generation, we engineered ourselves to be more adaptable, more resilient. We developed what we call the quantum genome, DNA that can rewrite itself in real time, responding to threats before they can take hold." On screens throughout the palace, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Omega strain wasn't subjugating the rebels. It was being absorbed, transformed, and repurposed by human-engineered genetic technology that had been shared with every allied species. "Evolution isn't about becoming perfect," Elena explained to the stunned Imperial Court. "It's about becoming adaptable. Your empire reached what it thought was perfection, then stopped evolving. That was your fatal mistake. The Omega strain had become humanity's greatest weapon. Their quantum genome technology didn't just protect against it. It used the virus as a delivery system for spreading genetic adaptability to every species in the galaxy. The Empire's ultimate weapon became the key to universal liberation. You turned our weapon against us," Hthrel realized. "But how? Even your advanced evolution couldn't have prepared for every possible mutation." "We didn't have to," Elena replied. "We created a system that evolves itself. Each human generation passes down not just genes, but the ability to rewrite those genes. We're not just evolution's children. We're its architects." Across the galaxy, the transformation was breathtaking. Species that had been genetically locked into servitude for generations found themselves able to adapt and change. The Empire's biological control systems, designed to suppress evolution, crumbled against the tide of natural selection unleashed. In Earth's quantum laboratories, scientists monitored the changes. Humanity had done more than defeat an empire. They had given the gift of evolutionary freedom to an entire galaxy. Each species could now guide its own development, freed from imperial constraints. Your empire was built on the idea that perfection means remaining unchanging. Elena addressed the Imperial Court. "Humanity thrives on change. We don't just adapt to survive. We adapt to thrive. And now, every species in the galaxy shares that ability." The final confrontation wasn't won with weapons or tactics, but with the very force that had shaped humanity since its beginning: evolution itself. The Empire had sought to control life's destiny. Instead, they had forced humanity to become masters of change, creating a legacy that would reshape the galaxy forever. As the imperial court surrendered, their perfect crystal cities beginning to pulse with new uncontrolled life, humanity's true victory became clear. They hadn't just defeated an empire. They had freed life itself from the chains of enforced stasis. What happens now? Threll asked, watching his unchanging world transform. Now. Elena smiled. Now every species is free to choose its own path of evolution. Some may choose to remain as they are. Others will transform in ways we can't imagine. That's the beauty of freedom. The future belongs to those who dare to change. The great crystal spires of Zarkax Prime caught the light of their star, but now they reflected it in ever-changing patterns, the first visible sign that even the Empire's homeworld was beginning to evolve. Humanity had given the galaxy more than victory. They had given it the power to shape its own destiny. In the end, the Empire fell not to weapons or warfare, but to the most fundamental force in the universe: the power to adapt, to change, to evolve. Humanity, evolution's proud children, had shared their greatest strength with the galaxy, ensuring that life would never again be trapped in crystalline perfection, but would always be free to grow, change, and become more than anyone could imagine.